loss, and healing. You will interpret that phrase according to your own experience. It will mean one thing to one person, a romantic relationship, now lost. To another person, a death, and that kind of loss. But what it is the story of humanity on earth. Love, the reality. Loss, the illusion. Healing, the reconciliation. The wholeness. The ending of the illusion. In this time in human history, you who have grown in this life and many others in an atmosphere of relentless rationalism are in for a series of shocks. For the world, in its cyclic change, humanity, in its cyclic change, the universe, in its cyclic change, is going to throw the whole question of rationality into the air. You are going to begin experiencing events and conditions that confound all of your expectations. And when we say you, we mean all of humanity. But those of you involved in this path of awakening are going to be, and are indeed already, prepared for the end of the illusion. The process that you have gone through lifetime after lifetime of experiencing the dark, experiencing loss within yourself, loss of identity, loss of confidence, loss of love, loss of approval, loss of opportunity, loss of the light. All of human experience has seemed to be nothing but loss. Constantly threatening. The dark shadow at the edge, always at the edge of your consciousness. When that illusion shatters, all reality shatters and changes. This is the end of a world. It is the end of a people, the end of a consciousness. It is the end of darkness, the end of imbalance, the end of duality, the end of a reality. And we speak to you quite literally. The events of this upcoming month set in motion an increasingly intensifying energy of change that acts to demolish the old reality as the new is built. All of these years have been spent in preparation for what is now at hand. All of your own dealing with faith and with doubt, dealing with the sense of littleness within, working your way through fears. And you say, wait a minute, I have not done. I'm still afraid. I'm still confused. Wrong. You only think you are. The illusion still entangles itself in your lives. But if you look at yourself clearly, you will recognize that while in the past, on this path, there have been times, sometimes many occasions, when you have said to yourself with some seriousness, am I crazy? Is this an illusion? Am I being led down the garden path? Am I making a fool of myself? Is this all a lie? You don't do that anymore. You have crises of courage, but nothing now can effectively undermine your belief in the process that you are involved in, not knowing where it's taking you, not knowing the outcome, but with an increasingly sure awareness that this, whatever it is real. It is that growing understanding of the reality that is taking form in your life and your life and your life, in the lives of humanity, in the lives of the universe. It is that fundamental, faith-inspired belief that is the beginning of the construction of this new age, this new reality. Always, what is writ large in the universe is writ small within each human heart. Always the experiences that you undergo, both in the long periods of time that you have been lost in the darkness of fear, and now in this brief period of time when you are beginning to come awake. Through that whole period of time, there has been the experience of loss. You can't picture life without loss. You can't picture life without death. You have been led to believe, because of the construct of reality that you have lived in and generally agreed upon, that there are beginnings and that there are endings. And when you enter into a love affair and you enter with you believe, your whole heart, full of love, full of commitment and faithfulness, and then when in the course of time and of events, that love seems to depart, and you are filled with consternation, with sadness, with anger, with regret, depression, a sense carved into your being that something has been lost. Something is no more. Yet it is not so and cannot be so. Love is eternal. Love never ends. You are all each other. You cannot fall out of love with these reflections of yourself, with these other aspects of your God being. You come together with high purpose in every relationship, the most tawdry appearing, the most desperate, the most humiliating, the most apparently foredoomed relationship is a jewel of teaching and ultimate illumination. Teaching you about the dark leads you to the light. Teaching you about what you feel you lack leads you to what you truly have. When you come together to do a job of work. And particularly in this life that contains within it a complete transformation of energy into new beings, when you are all graduates together, it is a time that is characterized, among other things, by many relationships. Some very brief, some longer in duration. Relationships of friendship, relationships of love, relationships of passion. So we say to you, don't be disillusioned, don't be discouraged if the relationship that you have entered into with hope and gladness in your heart reaches what looks to you like an ending. As you come back together, there are so many deeds left uncompleted. You come back together as partners. Come with me for a while. I will teach you that your fear of betrayal is illusion by appearing to betray you. By appearing to confirm the fear that you thought would destroy you, you will find that it strengthens you. Come with me for a while. I will make promises to you that I will not keep. I will create vistas of delight that we will not visit. Why? Why these apparently negative relationships? And this can be, as we said, in a love relationship, in a friendship relationship. There is intensity. There is disappointment. The goal, the ultimate goal, of course, is healing. Healing for yourself and healing for the other. Because you don't know what's wrong with you, you don't know consciously how to heal yourself. You think you would like this, that, or the other thing. You think you would like a relationship that brought two together and left you happily ever after. You have been taught to believe that. You have been taught to believe that anything but that is unsatisfactory. And yet you have found in this journey of yours that you have learned positive things from the most negative experience. And that the outcome has been, despite your crying, despite your pain, despite your wishing you'd never heard of the path, the outcome has been to strengthen you, to make you more dependable for yourself, to make you more willing to take on the responsibility for creating your own happy reality. Not believing in daydreams and fantasies and happily ever afters. And you think, well, it's making me hard. It's making me tough. Where are those glorious Technicolor daydreams? I want them back. It was so pleasant to sleep and to dream. Does it mean that being awake is going to be grim? Grim reality? Well, you can create any kind of reality you want. You've chosen again and again to create grim reality. But something has changed now. You're waking up. You're beginning to get a hint of how the universe works. You're beginning to get a hint about what you need to make you work. And the valley of the shadow of fear that you pass through is a bridge between your old helplessness and victimization, your old fantasizing and wish fulfillment, and a realism that is not built on grimness at all, but on a growing awakening to what you truly need and desire, and the knowledge that that is that you need you. Most of all, your relationship with you must thrive. If, as all human beings do in a state of imbalance, you draw yourself and have drawn yourself to relationship after relationship that left vast gaps in what you wanted, what you needed, in which you spent half of your time fighting and the other half papering over differences for the sake of the children, for the sake of continuity, for the sake of personal security, for the sake of fear. You have been taught that to ask for yourself is sinful at worst and in bad taste at best. To give to yourself selfishness, self-centeredness. Well, that's awful. You've been taught from the nursery. It is more blessed to give than to receive. It's easier to give than to receive, because it allows you to conveniently avoid your own issues. It gives you that wonderful glow of self-sacrifice. It doesn't matter about me. If I can do anything for you. And you listen for the whispers. How kind she is. How self-sacrificing he is. What a saint. What a martyr. What an angel. What a fool. Because you're not giving a gift at all. You're giving of your own fear and calling it love. When you feed yourself, when you fill your inner storehouse with love, when you gain your own approval, what a day of joy is that? Because you have been turning your face away and away and away and away, not wanting to look at yourself because you sense that you are not enough, not good enough, not brave enough, not strong enough, not faithful enough, not loving enough, not worthy enough. And because you have been closed off, one from another, thinking that you are each islands in a hostile sea, you have always thought, your life is easier than mine. You're better than I am. You deserve more than I do. Not knowing that everyone else was thinking the same thing. And so you give to each other poisoned gifts, poisoned with jealousy, poisoned with envy, poisoned with duty, and never give yourselves the greatest gift. And that is the gift that you are giving to yourselves now, beginning guiltily, hesitantly, niggardly, not wanting to shower yourself with blessings, but perhaps a little pinch here, perhaps a day off here. Something. But that token will grow into a real love offering to yourself. Because when you get a little bit of your love, it's like Chinese food. You just want more. And so all you need to do is to crack your resistance to accept love, and first from yourself. How many of you know how to accept a compliment, a sincere and genuine compliment about something that you secretly value about yourself? And you say, oh, well, let's change the subject. Oh, no. Well, you don't know. And inside you're thinking, they're complimenting me, but they don't know how awful I really am. You are growing together into wholeness by each of you giving yourself love, by each of you creating a reality in which loss does not play a role, because it isn't real. You are each coming to a point where you will value each other and all of your relationships for the gifts they bestow and the gifts that you give in return. You will recognize that not all things in a human incarnation are forever. You will find the sweetness in each offering, in each connection. And you will find that you're not getting tough, you're not getting hard, you're getting discerning. You're beginning to recognize, wait a minute, I don't deserve to be treated that way. I don't deserve a situation that constantly frustrates me. I don't deserve a boss that denigrates me and never praises me. I don't deserve a lover that humiliates me and turns from me in my time of need. I don't deserve that. That's love for yourself. It's not hatred of anyone else. It's recognizing this situation is wrong. The ingredients need to be adjusted and changed. I need to thrive. I need the sun. I need the light. I need to grow. And so bit by bit, tremulously, you begin to change your reality, to change the conditions of your life. And you do it in concert with your higher nature, that aspect of yourself that you are growing into oneness with. So you allow the higher nature, the higher consciousness, the higher self to take you by the hand and lead you here to this opportunity, and from there to this opportunity. And then gradually you recognize, I consciously have a role to play in this too. It's not a passive process at all. My job is to choose, to decide. And what a beautiful melody and harmony there is as your higher awareness leads you to exactly where you need to be, creating exactly the challenge that you need to face. And then click comes the conscious self, inspired now by the growing oneness within, and saying, I'm going to choose on one basis. What do I want? Not what does Mother want, not what would Dad like, not what would my husband or wife or friends approve of, not what my culture and my environment has brought me up to believe is right or desirable or wrong or undesirable. I'm going to listen to myself because I know what I need. And every well-meaning friend notwithstanding, I'm the best one to choose. I'm the only one that knows what I need. And then you act, and then you choose. And this is the period of time when you are being asked again and again to act and to choose, to activate yourself, to recognize that this partnership of heart and mind, of ego and spirit, is an equal partnership. And poor frightened ego that has thought all this time that you were trying to kill it, trying to wrest reality from it, giving your allegiance to some evanescent thing called spirit that the ego didn't believe in anyway. Now there is a rapprochement. Now there is an agreement. Now there is a partnership. Now there is a healing. What was riven within you, part of the duality, part of the belief in fear and in darkness, now is healing. Now you are beginning to recognize that the love that you shared with your lover isn't gone. Because you're not thinking back defensively to protect yourself. Well, she was this and she was that and she did this and she did that and she complained all the time and she was nagging me and blah, 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 and he was doing this and he was irresponsible and That isn't why you came together. You came together because of the beauty you saw in each other, the oneness that you sensed. And now that you are awakening, now that you're getting smart, yes, there's a wrench in parting. Yes, there's a process that needs to be gone through of assimilating the experience, releasing the anger. But now you know how to do that. And the love that was real, because the love was for the person. The anger and the hurt was for the issues that you both feared. That remains. And the beloved mother, or father, or friend, or uncle, or aunt who died and took themselves away from you didn't go anywhere, are not dead. Now you're starting to realize there isn't any death. Now you're starting to understand a concept that seemed at one time foreign to you. There is no endless sleep. There is no separation. There is never, on any level of consciousness, real separation. Only illusion. You are God. You are one. You are indivisible. When a light blinks on, and then the light blinks off, is the light gone? No. It's blinking on and off. Your awareness is affected, not the reality. But your awareness is growing. That dear friend, that dear relative, that has moved from this our incarnation to the wider reality has become reintegrated with the oversoul. Well, that phone line is still open. That energy connection is still there. All you have to do for that companionship is open to it. Say hi. And they'll say hi back. They're not gone. They're just blinked off. Loss is illusion. Love is reality. Healing is what you're doing now. And you are doing it ahead of the rush hour. And the rush hour is about to begin. And we say to you all, life has been difficult for you of late. Difficult choices, difficult emotions, disappointments when you had to learn the lesson that your expectations were based on fantasy and not reality. And the way to happiness is to end the expectations. Become one with your own process, recognizing that as you move forward, all that comes to you is a gift. If you don't try to impress some fear-ridden fantasy as to what you want, you won't be disappointed. You will be full of joy at the gifts that you were given. Well, you're waking up. You're all doing very well. And there are days you think you're doing very badly. There are days you are reluctantly proud of yourself. There are even days when you think, I'm doing great, and then you wait for the lightning. But you're really doing great. There wasn't any question about it, you see. I can make that blanket statement because you don't come into this situation without being prepared. It is only your fear-ridden mind that says, not me, I'm not good enough, I'm not ready, this can't be my last incarnation in duality. I'm too screwed up. But you're not. You're not. This is not, we constantly use the analogy of the school and of the graduation. But there's always a chance in your senior year that you could screw up and not pass and not graduate. Not in this. There the analogy breaks down. Here you have reached a point. There were choices earlier on in this path where you could have said, no, not this time, thanks anyway. But that's long gone by. There isn't turning back now, and there isn't any failure now. The challenges you get, you are prepared for. Because you are prepared for them, you deal with them despite trying to trip yourself up, trying to convince yourself that you're not ready, and never will be ready. But bit by bit, you're getting ready, you're proving to yourself, you're proving in little ways, well, I did do that all right, didn't I? I didn't think I could do that. I didn't think I could do that either, but if I did that, maybe I can do that. All it takes is a crack of light. We've said before, you're going to spend the rest of this incarnation proving to yourself that you are indeed whole, that those illusions were indeed illusions. But it doesn't mean you're always going to be at this state of confusion and questioning. As the incarnation goes on, there's going to be very little questioning. It's going to just be a constant source of surprise and delight to you as you find yourself in situation after situation that demands that you expand your abilities and your powers and your wisdom, and to your astonishment, you find each time that you do, and each time it gets easier, and pretty soon you're thinking, well, by golly, I am a triune being after all. And that's what the process you're involved in now. And it's going to be needed, you know. We've said before, you're the pioneers. The events that are going to take place on Earth in the next 20, 25 years are going to be variously cataclysmic. Very, very frightening to many, many people. Frightening not simply in the way that the prospect of war is frightening. Frightening not just in the way that a volcano or an earthquake is frightening. Frightening in a particular and special way. Frightening because there is a growing awareness that the reality itself is breaking down. It's not an earthquake here and a volcano there and a threat of war. It is the dismantling of an old reality. Time itself has speeded up. Many of you are becoming aware of that. Time is a constant as long as you're looking at your watch, but your watch is speeded up too, and there's no way for you to tell that. Events are multiplying. A kaleidoscopic effect of changing patterns is taking place. The earth is going through monumental changes, just as you are. You are part and parcel of the earth. Your spirit divine, married to the consciousness of the earth your mother. Your body is indistinguishable in its physical contents from the body of earth. And the changes that are going on in earth are reflective of and acting upon the changes that are going on in you. And these events that we are pointing toward in mid-month are going to signal, going to trigger an increasingly rapid distortion of reality. Imagine an earth giving birth to itself, full of labor pain. A human race giving birth to itself, full of labor pains. This is the point in time in this transformation for each of you. Well, we've said, here you've got two things going on at once. You've got a death going on, the death of the old ego, the death of the old fear-ridden self, and you've got a birth going on. This is the time when the balance shifts. None of you are going to be very preoccupied, and less so as the months go on, with the events of your death. The regrets, the sadness, the anger, the pain of bidding farewell to an old way of life. Now it is the increasingly joyful prospect of discovering the new birth, who you have been born to become. What are your qualities? What is your task? You are going to be learning this not alone in the separation of the duality, but together, connecting. First with one, then with another, with a small group here, another over there, beginning your own, connecting with this person, helping to awaken that, creating a growing, living network of awakened consciousness that is the foundation of a new reality. And beneath your feet, the Mother Earth, too, is going through this process of rebirth, birthing itself as you are birthing yourself into a new reality. Now, this is where it starts sounding a bit, if it doesn't already, like science fiction. When we first began our task here 7 or 8 years ago, we talked then about an ending and a beginning, a forking, a division, a world separating from itself into a new time and space framework. We were speaking literally. The fear-ridden world is dying, will be destroyed, and along with it, fear-ridden humanity. You are being born. Your new earth is being born. There is not going to be a physical manifestation of an earth ripping itself apart, with one part going over there and another over there. This is a dimensional interexchange. It is a point in the fabric of the multidimensional universe where one thing begins taking its own new track and another thing ends in a decaying track of continuation of its own. This period of time, the intense crux of the matter, is now. And we've said over the next 25 years. Well, that seems like an impossibly long time when you're caught in time. But it's not an impossibly long time, and the most intense part of the process, just as it has been in your own lives of transformation, is at the beginning. The beginning of the split, the beginning of the worldwide awakening, the beginning of the worldwide catastrophe. And we say this to you. You are going to see around you in the newspapers and on television and in your own experience evidences upon evidences of a world gone mad. You are going to see things that seem to you so absurd as to seem inexplicable, where nations and governments behave in ways so utterly and obviously self-destructive that you think you must be seeing a suicide in action, and you are. The self-destructive forces of those lost in fear are going mad, and like a mad dog, biting its own tail, destroying itself in a frenzy of fear. Your task is to be building in the midst of destruction, creating peace, faith, courage, love, comradeship, at the same time that civilization is collapsing. This is not, my friends, hyperbole. We are not exaggerating. And you have seen enough now. And many of you feel in your growing psychic spiritual sensitivity a shadow approaching. The sensing of large events in the offing. And you are quite right. And it is because of your awakened wisdom that you will draw to you, each of you individually, in your own circle, in your own work, in your own church, in your own circle of friends and relatives and relationships. You are going to be drawing to you those who are ready to be awakened. They will sense the Christ light in you. It's already happening to you. But it's going to be happening more frequently and more intensively. And my friends, don't dread it. You are going to be filled with a kind of joy that you have never in all of your lives experienced. Not the joy of fun, but the incredibly satisfying joy of being an instrument that has found its perfect use. To be what you have come here to be. To be creating joy in your own life through your enlightened understanding that you are deserving of your love and of your approval. And in the fullness of that joy, sharing your energy, your enlightenment, your insight, and my friends, however much you have doubted your wisdom, your worth in the past, stretch yourself now. However many mistakes you feel you may have made, errors in judgment, however much bad advice you may have given in the past based upon your own fears, all of that is over and gone. Don't rely on experience. In your process of reaching wholeness and enlightenment, your consciousness is expanding. Your wisdom is deepening. You are able to see farther with greater understanding of consequences and purposes than those who have not yet seen that light. Share your wisdom with confidence. Don't think, well, I don't want a medal. And what if I'm wrong? And what if my advice turns out badly and they turn against me? Trust the inspiration of your higher knowledge. People are starving for what you have to give. And it is not dragging them into a belief structure. Because those who are ready to awaken only need a tap on the shoulder. And those who are not, you could harangue until you turn blue, and they would just turn over and snore. You don't have to become evangelists and hit the street corners. There is no need for that. Nobody needs to be arm wrestled into awareness. Nobody needs to be frightened into the Spirit. In your own lives, because you are enlightened beings, in your own lives, you simply will utter truth. You will utter wisdom. You won't be able to help yourself. And word will get around. And the energy will attract. And so many of you come and say, well, what is my purpose? What can I do? I've been told that I have healing ability. Well, what does that mean? Do I hang out a shingle? Do I just go around saying, would you mind if I healed you? I've been told that I'm a teacher. Do I start a school? Well, some of you do. Do I say, excuse me, I have something I want to teach you? No, if you are a healer, you heal. If you are a teacher, you teach. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing, whoever you're with, you fulfill your function by being. By being. And if you are drawn toward the healing arts, you can absolutely, without fail, trust that you are going to be tapped on the shoulder and somebody is going to say to you, read this book. And somebody else is going to say to you, take that class. You are going to be who you are, and everyone is going to cooperate with you in bringing that into manifestation. You don't have to be searching. You know, the habit of search is deeply ingrained in you because you've always been lost. And you don't need to search anymore because you're not lost. You are always thinking, I'm not going fast enough, I'm not doing well enough. And that if I found the right person, the right class, the right teacher, the right book, the right something, I could accelerate. And I could look at myself and say, whoo, boy, look at me! But instead, it seems to drag on forever, and I get better so slowly, I never get to the point where I can say, boy, look at me. Because I don't see how well I'm getting until I'm well. And then it's too late to cheer. You are all growing into your wholeness as fast as you can. You are all using your talents as quickly as they become known to you and as quickly as you can respond. Time is not of the essence. You're not going to be late. There is no way that you are going to be anything but on time. And, you know, we could have said this to you a year ago or 2 years ago, and you might have said, oh, yes, that sounds fine. You go out and don't live that at all, as though I'd said nothing. But now you've learned enough to say, yes, I can see where that's really true. That's really true. And I can live that way. I can live as though I really trusted that everything will work out right. You think, oh, what am I saying? Am I biting off too much? Am I being too proud? Does pride go before an enormous fall? And yet those fear voices dwindle. And they will dwindle more rapidly in the year that is opening now. Now, it's helpful, though not always accurate, to deal in time frames that are familiar to you. And sometimes they'll happen within the allotted time frame, and sometimes they won't, but it helps you to relate to the information. So let's call this the beginning of a year here in mid-month of August in 1987. During the course of that year, your life is going to be revolutionized. Again, we are not exaggerating. All of that slow progress that you've been complaining about, all of that confusion, and you say, all I want to do is have some clarity so I can get some hint of what's going on here and who I am and what I'm supposed to do next. That is coming too. A pattern has been changing. You have been in the midst of a disrupted pattern. Not what it was, not what it's going to be. And of course it's confusing. You have needed to be, and listen to this, you have needed to be, each and every one of you, brought to a point of suppleness, willingness, flexibility, openness. Didn't let you get to. You are being brought to this point by many different means. Primarily this, onrushing events that you have to deal with willy-nilly, a pattern that you cannot recognize, a heat wave that makes you feel exhausted, a point in your spiritual process where you say, all right, I believe I'm in a process, but I can't figure it out and I give up. Take me, I'm yours. It is that vulnerability. You see, if you give the ego enough strength, it'll fight to the last drop of your blood. But you are being put through all of these various means in a position where you will be able to accept new energy, new direction, where before you would have been so busy trying to create an alternate reality that you wouldn't have seen the true reality as it appeared. None of you are projecting into the future the way you used to. The future has shown you up too many times. You think everything I plan, nothing works out anyway, I might as well quit planning. Good. Because the part of you that keeps planning is the part of you that's no good at planning. There is a plan, absolutely, but it's in your heart, it's in your spirit, it's not in your mind. Now, the mind and the ego are wonderful instruments and wonderful aspects of yourself when they are in harmony with the spirit, and that's what's happening with you and in you. Now, what's going to happen with this? But it's been called by many different names, and there are many, and really the point is there are a lot of arrows pointing at this mid-month time from several different directions. It's to make everyone in many, many cultures who are awakening aware that something's going on here, and some of you will hear about one and some will hear about another. That's all right. You need your attention focused. Well, there are so many things going on here. But they are focused on this. This is like an inducement to birth. What has been called the planetary lineup, the harmonic convergence, the end of the Aztec and Mayan calendars, arrows pointing from many different directions at this point in time. It is exactly what we've been talking about. It is a change of reality. It is a rebirth, a new beginning, a beginning that will be characterized by wholeness and not by duality. That will be characterized by an inward search and an outward exploration in which you will become a part of the community of the universe, in which you will become self-aware. It is going to be a grand and glorious time of expansion. You cannot imagine a world without fear, but it is a world without fear that you're creating in yourself. And of course, what goes on in you ultimately is going on in humanity. There are going to be increased earth-changed activities. Now, we recommend to all of you who meditate, and we hope you all do, that you go into a meditative state and visit the spirit of earth, the essence of earth, the heart of earth. In your growing sensitivity, you will be aware of the pain that you find, and you may hear it as a groan, you may hear it as a cry, you may hear it as a creaking or a sense of pressure. But it is growing to a crisis point as the labor pains become the birth pains. And so you are going to see earthquake and volcano activity. You are also going to see the more subtle but very far-reaching, continuing climatic changes. Climatic changes that you are experiencing here and that are being experienced throughout the earth. Climatic changes that appear in the short run to be disastrous but are really a readjustment. And not the first such readjustment in earth history. This is a cycle. Do not be personally afraid of this process. You may be hot and sweaty as you are now, but you are not in danger. You are not going through this process of enlightenment and coming into oneness with the activation of your purpose in order to be snatched from the scene. Does it mean that no one who is awakening is going to die in the near future? No, it really doesn't mean that. It means that there will be no accidents. It means that there will be no disasters. Some of you, not in this room, but some of you will decide, yes, I have done now what I needed to do. I have done the awakening in myself. I have worked out my work with the other spirits that I've needed to deal with, and now it's time for me to move on. Point. As the new age dawns, as you become true masters of yourself, and as we've said many times, the human being is designed to be a self-healing creature. You are going to have a great deal of leeway in how long you choose to live. It's not going to be a matter of 70. It's going to be a matter of how much do I need, how much do I want. It's not going to be, by and large, with very, very few and very vital exceptions, an era of extremely long lives. Frankly, none of you wants to stay away from home that long. But because there are going to be such adventures arising, some of which are going to require great investments of time, some of you are going to, as the future progresses, live to 200, 300 years old, and in health and in balance, and not aged and not feeble. In this lifetime itself, unless you have chosen otherwise, most of you are going to live far beyond any actuarial tables would give you. You're going to, you've already had some percentage of a lifetime caught in the duality, and the physical self, while it is self-healing, has also been caught in the duality. And so it's, you are not going to be in the fullness of the use of your healing abilities in this lifetime, so you're not going to live 200 or 300 years in this life. But you are going to live exactly as long as you want and desire to. And that's what's so important for you to realize, because when you were separated, you didn't know if you got some sort of a death sentence or suddenly hit by a car. Well, you didn't know that you were ready to go. You thought you had a lot that you wanted to do. But as you awaken and come into oneness, there aren't going to be such secrets from you anymore. You're going to know that you can choose when it's time to go, and you're not going to have to be hit by a car to let you know it's time to split. You see. So it is a wonderful world that is being born, and we want to emphasize that, because birth itself is messy and painful. That is the law of the physical universe, like it or not. But you are the midwives to the new world. Your own spirits, in their growth, awakening other spirits, beginning a process that in a very short period of time creates a new reality. So we say to you, love is eternal. Loss is illusion. Healing is what is going on now. none of you are going to have unhappy love affairs anymore. Oh, what a big statement to make. I'll have an unhappy love affair if I want. And that's the point. You've always had unhappy love affairs when you've wanted, but you don't want anymore. You're getting wise. You're coming together for the right reasons and seeing the right things. You are learning that you don't have to search for what is on your path. And so now we will close this part of tonight's reading. We'll take a break and we'll come back and answer questions.
Plautus, I was wondering, when a tornado hits somebody's house, does it hit that person's house in particular? And if people are damaged on the side, are they also supposed to be damaged?
Yes, there are no accidents. None whatsoever. There is free will, but not coincidence. Whenever there is, you can choose something as dramatic as a tornado or any, even the smallest of circumstances, they have to do with the issues being dealt with by the people involved. In some cases, it is part of the experience of loss, of the illusion of loss. In some cases, it becomes a avenue to awareness. It is never blind chance. Yes.
Plautus, the topic that you talked about tonight and the dream that I had last night, how does it fit with what's going on right now for
me? You are being made aware of your own shift of emphasis. You are being made aware of that which must be released, and that it will not be loss. Release is not loss. And again, we want to say to you and to all of you that many of you, well, all of you really, who have been confused in this during this period of time, have some clarity coming, and it is going to be coming to you in the very near future. You're going to begin to see more clearly what it is that's going on in your life, what your opportunities are, what your direction is going to be. It's not as going to be a curtain raising in front of your awareness, but a gradual clearing of the fog. And as we said, during the course of this year, you are going to reach additional clarity. And as far as dreams themselves go, part of the reason, there's information in dreams, but also, you awaken from a dream and you say, my goodness, how real that was. Well, of course, it was a reality that you created. And it is there to teach you that you create reality. This is a dream too. But it is a common dream. It is a dream held by many for a purpose. All of the material universe is a dream, an illusion, a construct. It doesn't matter as long as you're in it. It's as long as it's real enough to work and you don't fall in through it. That's fine. But you are reminded from time to time that you are God and that you create reality. That's a part of your work. Yes.
Plautus, you talked about leaving behind our fantasies and accepting our true path. What I want to know is, if we are creating our own realities, how do I determine what is a fantasy and what is my true path? Because it seems to me that anything that I would want to create would be a viable creation, you know what I mean?
Yes, but recognize the difference here, that when you, in the past, have fantasized about what you would like to do and what an ideal world would provide for you, and from that up to and including the fantasy of belief that the mind can choose a course of events and take a series of steps with predictable results based on mind alone. That too is fantasy. And what you are actually doing, whatever you think you're doing, is following a path that there are many alternatives you can take, but any path that you choose is going to be the path that brings you where you need to find lessons. And so you could call that fantasy too. The guidance that you are receiving from higher self informs your actions. So when you are acting on intuition, that isn't fantasy. That's the wisdom of the Spirit. When you are creating a new reality, you are not creating a castle of air in the future. You are creating in the moment. You are acting with spontaneity, something that one seldom does in the duality. But that spontaneity, again, is not happenstance. It is spontaneity because you are mind, body, spirit in harmony with yourself. And so the organ of self, the spirit, that receives the wisdom of the wider reality, that is not limited in its vision by the material world scene around you, takes in that information, gives it to a ready and willing ego self to implement. And so what may seem to you a process, particularly at the beginning, of hunch and gamble and risk, isn't at all. It's simply your response to the unaccustomed habit of acting on intuition rather than smothering it in rationalization. So the ability, we've spoken recently that the imagination is a wonderful and vital instrument, that it gives you the hint that you need, that you can create reality. But the true reality that is appropriate for you, that will work out according to your creation, has to do with your listening and acting on information from within. So as you grow more and more self-reliant, you grow more and more capable of being an equal, perfectly working part of this inter-involved machine called humanity. Yes?
Plautus, in the last few months, increasingly, I have been experiencing minor pains in my body. And when I become consciously aware of that, shortly after that, a person that I know comes to my mind. What is happening and what should I do with it?
Well, there is an intercommunication between mind, body, and spirit. The three spirits of self, the three aspects of the human being, they're coming into a wholeness, so they're going to work absolutely consciously involved with each other. The physical being, the body that wants to be whole and wants to be healthy and knows how to do it if you let it, will use its own power to create on its own turf the reality that you need. And so with the spiritual self, so with the mental, emotional self, the ego self. And there is now, in the process of your realization of the wholeness that is coming out of three apparently disparate parts and creating one grand whole, an increasing awareness, coordinated communication. And so your body is simply receiving signals in advance of the consciousness and is doing its bit to say, ding, 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 here's something coming up. But you're not in such a state of awareness that you're really aware of what all that ding, ding, dinging is about. But as we say, you're growing more and more aware. Soon you will listen with a finely tuned inner ear to the signals the body gives you, the spirit gives you, the mind gives you, and you're going to be able to test the reality one against the other. And really, for the first time in all of your lives, know what you're doing, know why you're doing it, and know how to accomplish it. Yes?
Plautus, is this why so many people that I'm in contact right now, they're leaving relationships or whatever? And does it mean then that coming into this reality within themselves that they will be finding their soulmate or their equal out there in the near future?
That is the great likelihood. Not all of you have that as a part of the structure for this life. Not all of you have that as a necessity for this life. Most of you have that as an option and a likelihood. Now, as we've explained at greater length elsewhere, this matter of soul mates is not so simple, because you can find a mate to your soul and discover that it's not a lifetime relationship, and discover there's another mate to your soul, and discover that because your soul is part of the one soul, there are many mates, that is to say, many who are of your essence, who have been exploring many, many lives, many, many realities from different perspectives, come back together from time to time, helping each other on the voyage, and finally coming back together to give the seal of completion, where they each carry within themselves that part of the combination that fits with that part of the combination that the other has, and then come together creating the completion. Well, that's coming too. But you may be, as we said earlier, you need to connect and finish things with a number of different people. And so you should not place your emotional investment in forever land, but rather live in the moment and appreciate what there is without putting a condition that I can only appreciate this if I know it's going to last forever. Yes?
Plautus, I'm curious, you've talked before that the only energy there is love.
Yes.
Yet you talk about God's love and God's light. What's the difference between the two?
Well, we tend to say the same thing in several different ways. Primarily because a phrase, while it may mean the same in terms of a definition, will subjectively hit a chord with one person and another phrase with another person. And so you probably notice when we speak, often we will say this, and say the same thing in several different phrases. That's really what this is. Light and love are being used here interchangeably.
Thank you.
Yes.
Plautus, do some of us have higher selves in common?
Well, we'll try to give you a sort of cartoon-like sketch here that might clarify that. Understanding that time is an illusion, and this is grossly simplified, but we'll try to make it at least clear. At this level, there are all of these human beings in this reality. But also a part of this reality, when you exclude the separation, the apparent separation caused by time, are all of the other Earths, all of the other dimensions involving time. Here also are all of the past. All of the past lives, all of them equal. So here is humanity alive in 1642, alive in 1987, all simultaneous, all a part of the same over-soul. And I don't like the word, and I haven't come up with one I like better. For you, individually, here you are, not a fragment of the whole, but a particular aspect of the whole, wearing a particular disguise, a particular persona, in a particular time, with particular relationships having to do with your particular needs. And here are you, again, in another life, in another time, another sex, richer or poorer, in slavery or in freedom, with all of the variables, one life after another life after another life. All of those lives emanating from higher self. Higher self is not a part of the time system, the time sequence. Higher self sends out these personas, these beings, these selves, in all of time and in all of space throughout Earth, wherever the need is. And when you are withdrawn from the reality, when you end the incarnation, when you, quote, die, then that energy is withdrawn to the mothership. And the information assimilated, that temporary persona that was created, assimilated with all of its idiosyncrasies, with all of its peculiarities, with all of its uniqueness, becoming a part of the whole. So, therefore, each of you living in many different times and under many different guises, all return and all have as your higher self the same higher self. And so there's higher self and all of the energy projections that lead in through time and space. Then there are all of the higher selves, interactive, on that level of reality, still apparently separated from each other, and yet joined together in knowledge and understanding, not separated as the human islands have been. Still separate in their work, their attention, their personality isn't really accurate. That's a term that should be limited to the human life. But it's as close as we can get. A separate identity of higher self, but linked with all other higher selves. And beyond that, other linkages that we'll get into at later times, that are a part of the ladder of gradual oneness leading to the full identification of God. So, yes.
Plautus, I've been doing some reading about the different levels of reality, and I wondered in all this talk about demons and being possessed and all of this, and this one is supposedly the lowest level of reality. Do you create that, or is that something that actually these demons or whatever actually exist?
No, it is created. As we say, love is the only reality, and love and demons don't go together. Demons are the creation of fear. Demons are the creation of the appearance of darkness. The darkness isn't real, the illusion of, obviously, an illusion is not real. And yet it works while it is fed with the power of belief. You create your reality, positive or negative, out of your belief, because you are God. God's in training. It is only your belief that is necessary to enliven, to create life, to make real. And so you take the illusion of fear and you say, in effect, I believe in that fear. Therefore, because I believe in it, I animate it. Because I animate it, it has the power to cause me harm, to cause me damage, to invade me, to affect me in negative ways. But as you begin to awaken and you reach a point where you start to see, wait a minute, I can see through that fear. It's transparent. It's like, realize, it's like the little child that said alone among the multitudes why the emperor is naked. Well, once the child said the emperor was naked, everyone else noticed. And they said, oh my goodness, the emperor is naked. Well, once you get a hint of what's going on, once you start to wake up, well, the rest just falls. Because reality, truth, love is so much more powerful than any illusion, however artfully created, that when you embrace love, by taking your fear to that love and saying, I trust, though I'm still lost in fear, I trust, I have faith, that love is the truth, love is the power, and if I take in love my fear, not hiding from it, not casting it out, not shoving it down, by looking at it with the eyes of inspiration of love, gradually I will see through it. I will then withdraw the power of my belief from it and it will collapse. So it is with such apparent realities as the reality of demons, of possession, the reality of hell, the reality of all pain and of all darkness and of all fear. While you believe in it, you make it real enough to harm you. When you stop believing in it, you affirm that there is only love. Yes?
You've said that the past, present, and future are simultaneous and interactive. And some people indeed are able to perceive the future as if it's already all written out like the script, but I've never heard of anybody perceiving that the past is being rewritten or influenced by the present.
Well, yes. It's because, all right, you're looking at this from too linear a point of view. All right, let's take the future first. There is, in each of your individual lives, a structure that you could call a plan, that you could call fate in your life. That structure is a spindly affair, Because free will is the key to filling in the structure, to creating from it a castle or a hovel. And so anyone, however gifted, who looks into the future is dealing, by and large, with probabilities because of free will. But when they are dealing with the structure itself, the fatedness of humanity and of life, and this period you're in now is a fated period. It is part of the structure, the time for evolution, the time for graduation. That can be, and has been, throughout the ages, predicted by those who were given that gift to keep a candle of understanding lit in the darkness of human fear. Now, looking into the past, we have said that those lives that you have led, are leading, that are deeply involved thematically, dealing with the same kind of fear issues from a different perspective, that those actions that you take in this life, actions of enlightenment, actions of love, actions that release you from the long multi-life control of those fears, reverberate in their effect in other lives as well as this. But because you are dealing not time to time to time, but, and this is where the language breaks down, you see, because there isn't a multidimensional language, but through and across and in between and skirting time, that those millions of changes that take place every day, know it or not, do profoundly affect history, personal history, world history. But you don't know it because you are all a part of the same multidimensional flow of reality. The earth as it exists at any specific moment is a combination of many realities with the appearance of one. But, and we can't even think of an analogy that will do this justice. We're going to say it's like a Christmas tree with many changing lights and many aspects in constant flow. But you can't see the flow. You will pick up a history book and you say, this is history. This is what happened. Well, it's not. It's not anywhere near what happened. It's some war winner's idea of what would look good as having happened. The real history, the reality of experience, you see, is quite different from what was written by the winners, however much they wanted to be objective, because nobody is objective. There isn't a human being that has ever lived who was objective, because you have always been dealing out of fear and out of desire. And desire makes you, take for example, if you're in an athletic contest, and it's a hard-fought contest. Well, an athletic contest has a winner and a loser. And it should be very clear-cut. But it takes almost no time for those losers to begin the process of rationalization, to correct the appearance of that history. Well, we didn't really lose because of this factor and that factor that was missing, and if this hadn't happened, well, and that happened, and you know, that was seen wrong. The referee was absolutely wrong about that, and pretty soon the reality, the subjective reality, has been utterly scrambled. And as time goes on, the scrambling increases. So it was Henry Ford who, in his sublime ignorance, once said, history is the bunk. And he was sublimely wise in saying so. History is the bunk. It never happened. Not anywhere as it appeared to have happened. And it's a good lesson for you to live in the moment. There's no need for you to be guided by experience. You know, people are always saying, well, why don't we learn from the lessons of history? Why are we fated to repeat the mistakes of history? Well, you're not repeating the mistakes of history. You're making new mistakes. Because the situation is different, and the energy is different, and the path is in a different place, you see. And so you could try to be guided by history and discover yourself making mistakes again. Well, that, too, is the past of darkness. And now the light dawns, and you will no longer be concerned with the myth of history. Because as you grow into your maturity as a people, you will learn the trick of living in the moment, which is the only reality. Yes?
They are people that seem to be totally unaffected by the changing energy, and they seem very well adjusted and happy.
Yes, doesn't seem fair, does it? Yes, we hear that complaint a lot. And the only thing we can say to you, in small comfort it may be, is that someday it'll be their turn. That you are dealing with many dimensions. There's no one in this split of earth, no one who embraces fear to the bitter end, who is lost. Nothing is ever lost. Everyone, every spirit, in every guise, goes through every stage of the process, including the graduation. And many times there will be those who, in the midst of worldwide disaster, will be having a perfectly hunky-dory time. Because that is what they are experiencing. And you know, there's a lot of action going on underneath the surface that is not perhaps involved. You know, you tend to think that everybody who is financially okay, or who is socially acceptable, is doing swell. Because you have been conditioned by your belief in want and by your experience in the duality to attach a great deal of security needs to social and financial matters. But there are many other issues that are dealt with under the appearance of tranquility. Nobody is in this life as a free ride. Some appear to be having a perfectly swell old time, but they too are experiencing and causing experiences of great importance. And that is why we say to you, all of you, again and again, don't compare. Don't compare yourself with anyone else. If you weren't unique, you'd be someone else. Yes.
Plautus, are there spirit guides, and if so, what are they?
Yes, indeed. There are many spirit guides, chief among which is your own higher self. All information that comes to you from the wider reality, as we call it, it comes through your own higher self. You are not, unless you are lost in fear, you will not be invaded. All information, all guidance comes first to you at the higher self level, and then a voluntary opening is made and the guidance is felt and the action is taken. Now, you are all in this process requiring many midwives, many guides, many helpers, because it's a very complex process. And so you will get helpers from the wider reality. That is to say, helpers that are from what you would think of as the spirit world. You will receive aid from friends who have passed away from this immediate reality, those who have died. You will receive and are receiving help from those who are extraterrestrial, who are not of this earth yet are of the physical reality, and who are communicating to you at a psychic spiritual level. Sometimes consciously, most often, particularly up until now, subconsciously. There is going to be increasing awareness, increasing individual and ultimately mass contact with extraterrestrials, because as we said earlier, you are human beings are becoming a part of the universal culture, the universal society, and are being welcomed as you come into your wholeness, being welcomed into that world and helping to be brought into that world by your friends on other planets from other star systems. You know, the fact that science fiction was developed as a genre art form over the last century, and particularly over the last half century, is not happenstance. It is preparation. It is making the impossible seem merely unlikely and the unlikely seem real. And as you continue, and the films that you see, well, the wonderful special effects that make things seem so real, the de-terrorization of aliens, where you see them as other sentient, soul-filled life forms, is again part of the preparation for a mutual welcoming. And so that's going to be increasing also. So there are many sources of guidance, all of them benign, all of them loving, none of them requiring fear. Earlier we were asked about the question of possession. It is only those who are in fear that even raise the issue, raise the question, because they don't trust themselves and what is inside of them, because they feel that they have been betrayed by themselves, and that they invite through their sin the invasion of darkness, of demons, of whatever. Well, again, it's a question of your belief growing beyond fear. Yes?
Plautus, how do we know when to let go of old relationships that sometimes we tend to cling to and be looking for something and searching and trying to do what others want us to do? How do we know when it's time to let go and get on with it?
Well, we think that it's becoming a much more conscious thing, but as a rule of thumb, we'd say if there is something you are clinging to that brings you only pain and not joy, then it's time to let go. That there is no need to beat dead horses. That when a relationship has soured to a point that it is not joyful to you, that it does not suggest to you hope, then it is time to let go. And if by chance you've let go too soon, you won't be able to let go, because something is yet to come. Radical trust is the theme of this evening's meeting. Things are changing so rapidly, so thoroughly, so fully within you and outside of you that it is your only alternative. And so the radical trust is the trust of yourself and of your process. And the trust that you will know. That, you see, when you're no longer lost in fear, you are no longer obsessed with repeating the fear conditions. You are no longer compelled to keep inviting into your life the darkness and the pain of fear until the level of frustration rises to a point where you're able to break through into faith. That's not necessary anymore. Therefore, because it's not necessary, like any antiquated characteristic, the evolution will leave it behind. And you will be able increasingly to see with clarity when it's time to let go. And it doesn't mean that, as we said earlier, it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy and you say, well, time to let go, bye. No, of course not. It's going to require a disengagement, an analysis, an assimilation, a release of pain and anger. But it will be quickly healed. You won't cling. You won't hold on. There is no longer a need, a compelling need for you to do so. Yes? How much time do we have left?
3 minutes.
Yes.
What can Twin Cities expect as far as Earth changes?
Well, that's a good question. Generally, a milder form than many parts of the Earth. The reason that this area has become, or we should say is, so spiritually activated, drawing people from many different places for the purpose of going through the transformation process. It is one of those places on the hide of the earth that does enjoy protection. Now, you are experiencing bizarre changes in weather patterns. And certainly that is at best uncomfortable and can be dangerous. But it is not the kind of cataclysmic condition that is going to strike in many other parts of the earth. One more question. Yes.
When things, change in other places, how can people help?
I beg your pardon?
How can a person help when things do, strike?
Yes.
Wherever it happens?
Yes. Well, it's not a question of sticking your finger in the dike. It's not a question of sandbagging. It's not a question of doing that kind of rescue work. It is a question of using your own energy in its perfect healing ways. And as we indicated earlier, trust yourself to be where you need to be and do what you need to do. You don't need to plan it. You don't need to worry about it. And that is so hard for you to learn when you have lived so long in the mind, such a believer in planning for the future, in putting away for a rainy day, in extrapolating carefully on the basis of present known facts, on the repeatability of experimentation and so forth. You're absolutely married to that need. Let go of it. Lead the instinctual life. The life that lives in the moment. The life that is perfectly trusting, perfectly in harmony with yourself, with your path, and with the intricate pattern of earth of which you are a vital part. You will be where you need to be and where you can best serve. Each of you. So now we're going to draw this evening's reading to a close. We thank you all for your attention, and we bid you Godspeed as this journey takes some strange turn. Thank you all for coming. I can't believe you all turned out on this heat, and I'm thankful that you did.